Home audio entertainment.
9016 Radio.
The show for artists of all kinds.
Sit down, relax, enjoy the music.
I only just got the mini fridge. It's so good.
Yeah.
Having actually cold drinks. I just had a chili bin for ages. And then I was just offering people like warm beers and stuff. I was like, I got to get the fridge. I got to get the fridge going.
Would you like a warm beer?
Yeah. Literally, that was happening. It was because it gets so hot in here as well. The chili bin just does literally next to nothing. Have you got any tips for getting songs out of your head? I've had a song stuck in my head for like the last month and I just can't get past it.
Getting it out of your head.
Yeah, because I've had people say like, "Oh, you just listen to it again and again, and it eventually just fades out."
Like a song.
But I keep listening to
Like
it. And
an
it just
already written song?
Yeah, like an actual song, not like creatively, just
creative.
like a song that is like
How
there.
can you get it?
Because that Whoop-Dee song by CJ,
Whoop-Dee.
that's been in my head for a whole
Bitch,
month.
I'm in love with the blue cheese, bro.
It's
Sometimes
just such a
there's no
good beat, man.
it's-
And it's there, and I just cannot get rid of it. And I'm constantly playing over the drum patterns in it, and I'm just like, I cannot get the song out of my head.
Bro,
It's
that
crazy.
song is fire.
It's a good song.
Honestly, bro, I'll just say, personally, I like to over-listen to music anyways.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of music that I listen to, whether it's been stuck in my head, I listen to it so much that I'm like, don't want to hear it anymore.
True. Like on purpose, like you try and just
Like,
phase it out and get onto
I
the
think
next
that's just who I am, bro.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Even when I make my own music, I just over-listen to things.
Right.
Like, once I like something, I just overdo it.
Yeah,
So,
it's hard. It's hard to find a balance, and there's just such a difference between when you're listening to music for pleasure and then when you're listening to music when you're making it. Because if you like, I do the same with like playlists. Like I'll have a playlist of songs that I'll listen to constantly, like over and over.
Yeah.
And I just wear everything so dry, but like that's the only stuff I want to listen to at the time because it's
Yeah.
just like the hottest picks that I have at the moment.
I'm exactly
so I just
the
get
same, bro.
bored of it. But like creatively, it can be dangerous because you can get. Like depending on what stage you're at in the beat making process or the song writing process, like if you're sort of 90% of the way through the track and you sort of listen to it over and over and over and you're not really changing much, it's hard to actually break out of that because you feel like you've got this ingrained idea of what the song is, so it's hard to actually tweak things. Do you ever come across that?
100%, bro. Like, I'm like that with pretty much every song I have. Like, I would have listened to it at least over 1,000 times before I release a track.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fair enough, though. Like, it's weird. It must be so weird actually getting to that point of putting a song out there.
Bro, it's so, like, every song I've released right now has never been, like, within the same year. It's always like,
True.
I've released a song a year later.
Because there was a big build up to that Batman drop. That was on the radar for ages. I was
Bro,
like, oh,
Batman
is this
was-
going to be dropped?
Batman was meant to come out, like, 2018.
Really? And that was only last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, like, recently
That's
last year.
crazy.
Maybe, like,
You've been sitting on that for ages.
November, September, bro. I just sit on, like, I have heaps of work, but for me, it's like the music I'm making now to what people have been listening for me is like me trying to like kind of link that together.
Right.
So like, because I could drop like new release stuff that I've already made,
Yeah.
but I feel like, okay, would this throw people way off?
Yeah,
like,
right.
So right now I'm just trying to like build it on track, but it could also just be like insecurities, bro. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And there'll be a lot of that in the process. Like being an artist of any kind, there's always something that's holding you back from really
100%,
doing what you feel like you could do.
100%. Like, again, with me listening to my tracks, it's also like part trying to be a perfectionist, but a lot of it is insecurities as well, bro.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
And I'm sure a lot of artists go through it as well, but man,
In terms of production, you're getting your beats from other people, aren't you? You don't
Yes.
do much in the beat making process, is that
No.
right? Or do you dabble at all?
I have Fruity Loops. I try to make beats and stuff, but I don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, fair enough. It can be quite tedious.
It's like, just with anything, the more work you put in, like it will show a result, but I just don't have the time for that.
Yeah,
I want
fair.
results like now.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're listening to, so that being said, when you're listening back to a track that you're making, it's really just vocals that you're putting onto it and that sort of thought process, I suppose. So when you're sort of listening back to things, you're really, I suppose you've already chosen the beat, so you're pretty happy with that as that is. So it's purely just like a lyrical thing that you're looking at.
Yes. It also depends who sends me a beat.
Yeah.
Like if it's one of my homies, TJ, he goes by Z. he makes beats as well. He's really good at making beats. So if I've done something on his track, I know like, okay, I have the option to like switch things up that I want switched up at certain stages of the song and just to meet how I want the song to sound. But yeah, a lot of it is like me just reciting, okay, does this ad-lib sound good? Maybe do I need to like switch the flow at this certain point? Just small things like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's so I admire people that can write lyrics. I say this to almost everyone that comes on, but the amount of times that I have tried to put lyrics on something that either I've made or listened to, I cannot get it, man. And I just can't. I can imagine there's points where you find that the things you write down are sometimes like, at least this is how I feel I would if I was doing this sort of thing. A lot of the lyrics just come off as like corny. You ever listen to some back and be like, damn, that line kind of sucked?
Bro, like my first years of like writing music was just, at the point I thought I was really good, but I thought I was like the nicest dude out. But listening back to that music, bro, just garbage. But yeah, even now to this point, like I do have moments where I'm like, okay, this lyric's kind of whack. Yeah, fix it up. But I think, like I said earlier, the more you do things, the better you get at them, bro. So
for sure.
Just a lot of practice and hard work.
Definitely. And it's hard to look back at yourself because you know in the moment of when you were making that thing, it was cool.
Yeah.
But time really does tell like what you're actually talking about at the time. And especially if it's more like emotional stuff. Like when you approach tracks now, I suppose it's dependent on the beat and your mood and everything, but are you sort of more reaching towards like, I don't know, a certain type of lyrics like involved in the genre of music that you're in, or is it more just really what you're about and what you're doing? Is it more like sort of sentimental stuff as well?
It varies.
I know
bro.
It's pretty broad, but
yeah, like for me, it varies, bro. Like I'll say at the moment I'm trying to make like kind of vibe music towards like females, like just
true.
songs that girls would like. But then again, like I could do that today and tomorrow I'll wake up feeling some type of way and I want to write on a drill track.
Yeah, for sure.
Go crazy, like just talk nonsense, you know?
Yeah, hard. When did you jump on the drill sort of thing? Has that always been part of your like music sort of idea, I suppose?
I'm trying to think, when was the first time I
forgive me, there's a song of yours that came out a couple of years ago. I can't remember the name of it. The video was like at nighttime, you're on this big sort of like staircase.
Nighttime.
I can't remember what the track was called. Forgive me.
Evil.
Yeah. That's it.
Hours. Yeah.
So that was kind of like bordering on the drill sort of scene, and I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then you sort of really emerged in that drill beat. So where did that all sort of come from? You just sort of switched on, or was this something that you sort of had planned?
So with the music I listen to, I don't really listen to American music. I think the American scene is like oversaturated. There's just like,
it's pretty pushed in your face everywhere, isn't it? Yeah.
And since like maybe 2012, 2013, I started listening to like the UK scene. And I just started hearing like the beats they were going on. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. So I made Evil 2016. Pretty much I just found the beat on YouTube. I just really liked the beat. And I was like, yo, I'm the only one doing this here. Like I hadn't heard, like this was way before Aussie drill and New Zealand drill all popped off. So I was just enjoying that beat and I wanted to try it. So
it's such a fun genre, I feel like.
100%. I love like the whole beat pattern, like the hi-hats, everything about it just slaps.
808's just sounding a lot more immersive in that drill scene. Yeah, for sure. Do you think though that it is starting to get a wee bit, because like you listen to songs like Whoop-Dee and all the stuff that Pop Smoke had put out, all that drill movement into like American trap music, do you think it's going to start to get oversaturated like American trap is?
I think so. I mean, like,
because that song, that Whoop-Dee song came out in like July, I think, has over like 100 million views now. It's like people are going to latch onto this. Like the people are doing beat breakdowns of that song, like, and of course already Pop Smoke sort of solidified that genre as well. I think it's just going to.
That's what's like been happening right now. So with the drill movement, it started in Chicago, Chirac, 2012, and then it so people in the UK just started like copying that style because it was street life that they could relate to.
Right.
So
there's a difference between Chicago drill and UK drill.
Yeah, and
is it purely in like the lyricism, or is it purely to do with like the beat? Because like I think I've heard Chicago drill, and it's
Chief
not
Keef.
when I hear drill, I don't think of that. It's quite different.
So yeah, with Chicago drill, that was like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, King, OTF, King Von, all those people. So the lyrics are the same thing. They were talking about violence, like violence, how they grew up in the streets, all that. That's the same in the UK, but what changed the UK game was their whole production of beats.
Right.
So what's now happened is now they're taking production from the UK and bringing it back to the US.
Right.
So
it had sort of already stemmed in Chicago,
Yeah.
and then sort of it's like a Chinese whisper sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
going back and forth and changing. That's crazy.
yeah, but like it's global now, bro. I was scrolling through
everywhere.
Instagram and I saw like Ghanaian drill, bro, like African drill. I was just like, yo, that's crazy, but that's sick.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. Yeah, well, like the big part about like you see those trends happen and you see them spread out everywhere and you go, oh, now it's everywhere. Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
But like it's sick because people are seeing that in a lot of cases as a reason to start making music. You know, like that's a genre that perhaps appeals to them so much that they have to go, oh, well, I have to do my version of this. You know, it's just
100%.
sending inspiration everywhere. Granted, like to use your turn of phrase, oversaturated. It can get to that point. And I think like American trap music is
Yeah.
definitely at that point now, like hip hop being like the number one genre in the world. Like that's pretty crazy for a genre like that. And it is just everywhere. Like typical pop artists and like a lot of EDM like artists are now using trap sort of drums in their production as well. Like
100%,
that's
bro.
just everywhere now. You can't get around it. That's just where it's at.
yeah, like I mean, I don't blame people for like hopping on it. Like it's human nature to kind of want to like evolve and shit. So with every new genre that comes, people are just gonna hop on it, bro.
Yeah.
Like
It's natural, right?
yeah, and it's
Because people want to succeed, right? And if people are in the industry and they want to do well, they're going to typically want to do something that's going to appeal to the masses, right? Like it's pretty hard to sort of define a genre of your own and make that popular on your own.
Right.
Like that's a slow burn
And
if you're really going to get that out there.
especially if it's like a new genre as well. So I shout out to everyone doing it, man. Like
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
It's crazy to see where where you can actually take yourself these days. Like the tools that we have at hand in 2021 now, like through the internet and everything, you could blow up from Dunedin, which is a
Facts.
crazy thought, you know.
Facts, bro.
It's so sick.
And like, look at I guess in the generation that we're in, like social media generation, everyone can blow up, bro. Like it's all in your hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Film a 10-second video.
Literally in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You film a 10-second video and that's it. You're on your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
One of the first times I realized that you could do anything you wanted pretty much with your phone was one of the Night Lavelle songs back in like 2015. I'm not good with my music history, but not that this is history, but he shot one of his videos on an iPhone, like just the whole thing straight, no cuts, anything, just on an iPhone. And that was his video. And that was kind of like,
Oh, shit.
Jesus, like you really can do anything. Like, and the thing is, you know, no one would have really known that for a while. It was just content you see there. It's a
Yeah.
video, it's boom. And it's like, all he had to do was get his mate to come out with him and be like, can you just film me and I'll just put a crazy fit on at night and we'll just shoot this video. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, you really can get anything done.
But I've like recorded reference tracks on my iPhone, like
True.
with just the old, you know, the wired,
Just the earbuds with the
bro.
microphone.
Found like a auto tune app and just like laid vocals down, and it goes hard, bro.
Yeah.
Like, there's just I don't know. I'm glad to be in this generation where things are so easily accessible to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Is that a big part of your process, doing that recording? Because I imagine, again, this is me trying to relate to it. I feel like if I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the studio today and I'm going to make a song, or I'm going to put lyrics down on this beat, or whatever it is you're going to do, you can't always get the results you
Yeah.
want at that time, but you might be walking down to the dairy or something and be like, oh, that's a sick melody, and you record it then and
Yeah.
there. Do you find that happens more often than when you're actually in the studio?
That's mostly my creative process, bro. Like most of the times I'm just chilling at home writing shit. Writing on my phone, writing music, like recording myself on the phone prior to going to the studio. If I'm going to the studio, I want to like get in and get out, like make sure I've banged the work out. But most of the process for me is really just writing, doing that whole process and the recording part is like a cherry. I already know what I need to do. I already know how I want it to sound, even though sometimes it doesn't turn out the way I want it, but it's like 80% complete by the time I'm in the studio.
That's sick. And I suppose most of the time when you are going to the studio, you've already got those notes and recordings that you've done already, so you've got something to achieve when you're there.
Yeah.
So how many people have you got in the city working with you at the moment, like in terms of producers? Like what is a studio session for you? Like where are you going? You don't have to specifically tell me, but like
Shout
who are
out
you
Carlos
with? Like,
Studios. That's my boy Andre. He's running that. It's out by New World Gardens.
sick.
So that's his spot. Dre owns that. So I'm going, I do all of my recordings there. Producers wise, in Dunedin, I would say Z is the only one I'm working with, like as a producer. But I'm working with artists like Timmy the First, Z, just us boys, just the Voss boys.
So tell me about that, because I'm a wee bit out of the loop with
Yeah.
that group and who's involved in that. And for people that don't know listening.
Yeah, so Voss stands for Very Odd Rap Squad Can Entertain. It's spelled different, but check us out.
So I didn't know that's how you actually pronounced it until now. So
Yeah,
that's
Voss
one
like the water.
Yeah.
Stay wet.
So-
But
So how did that all come together?
yeah, so I started Voss. I think it was just me, really. This was like 2017. I was chilling in my room and I was like, yo, Voss, get a cool collective. Because I've been wanting like a group going for a while, bro. Because I think things always work out better in numbers. Like,
Definitely.
so I was already friends with like Timmy and TJ and Soul. So like, why not have my brothers in the group? And that's how it started.
Makes sense.
It was just it's just the brothers, the homies get together and try succeed in this game, see how it grows.
And you feed off each other that way, you know, you give each other ideas. Like, I presume most of the time you're there with each other and for each other. So it's easy to
100%.
bounce off and make ideas, because it can be such a tricky journey when it's just a solo mission, you know, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
100%.
It's just like anything outside of music as well. Like any group that you have to go and do something with just makes it all the more exciting. Like, what's the point of writing a song a whole day in your room if you can't show anyone, you know?
Yeah. Like at the beginning of us, like we had just random people. Like we tried to do like this big Dunedin super group.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, not that people weren't into it as much, but like we knew that with us four, we could like really focus on it and actually do something with it rather than have like 10 people and like we barely know these 10 people, you know?
Yeah. It's a good number, 4. 4 or 5 is good, because it can get oversaturated.
Yes.
If you have too many people in the group, like
100%.
you've got too many people to keep track of, there's always going to be probably a couple that want to like step up further than
Yeah.
others. Like it's a big,
I mean,
big
even
amount
with the 4, like sometimes we're like, when we have to perform as a group, we're like, no, I want this song, but then there's not enough for this song. Like, so that plus like 6 other people would have been crazy.
That's so cool. So do you have songs collectively, or is it all just like your work under a group? Like when you perform, is it you sort of all doing your individual performances, or?
So we, as our set list goes, like we all collab with each other. We have a few songs that all 4 of us are on, and then we have songs that like I would have featured on someone else's track or something like that. So when we perform, we just try to get our featured songs with each other's together because we're performing as Voss.
Yeah.
And then we'll also like do your individual tracks. Like if at the end of the day, what we want to do is put out the best show. Like if someone's coming to a show, we're trying to make them have a good time and remember us. So if it's individual songs, if the song slaps, it slaps, and that's how we go about it. Like,
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool. And that'll make it so much more enjoyable being on stage as well, because you've got all the more things to sort of like, you can take yourself out of it for a while someone else really goes in on their song, you know, and you can just be the hype person. Like that's so cool. Like how many shows of your own can you compare to a show with the group that, you know, it feels different? Like I suppose there's more pressure when it's just you on stage.
Yeah, like again, back to the same thing I've been saying, things work out better in numbers. Like you can do a show by yourself and it'll still be lit. But you can either do it like, but doing a show with other people, it just creates a whole different dynamic.
Yeah,
like,
definitely. Have you, when it is just you performing, have you still got like a hype man there with you, or is it you just going out on your own? Is it something you want to nail?
When I have performed by myself,
Because you did orientation last week, didn't you? Last year.
Yeah, I did it with Voss, with the homies.
True. So
That was sick. Orientation was so sick, bro.
can imagine.
It was dope, packed out. It
Yeah.
was just really dope. But I've done my shows by myself in Melbourne, where I was just like on stage by myself. Like I still do what I need to do. Like at the end of the day, I'm here to put on a show, whether I'm by myself or by the group. So either or, like I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable. I think I've been doing shows for a while now, so I don't get nervous or anything like that.
That's good. It's a good place to be in. What do you remember your first show being like? First time on stage?
First time on stage, it was at Jack Hill's.
True. Oh, I was there for that.
Yeah, it was
Sick. Yeah, I remember that.
It was at Jack Hill's. That was my first time, bro. This whole story. Let me tell you the story from the start. This ties into how I even began rapping, bro. So I was walking around with a homie, and I think what's Pavement? What was the name?
Quest.
Yeah, when Pavement was Quest. Me and my homie were just like going through the shop. I don't know how this came, but Jono was working at desk, and I think he said something like, "Oh, you guys look dope. Do you guys do music or something?" And I'm like, "Oh, not really, but I can rap kind of." And I busted out like a freestyle for him. And he's like, "Bro, that's actually pretty good. I gotta." He's like, "Bro, that's pretty good. I've got a homie who has a studio stuff. You should go like say what's up to him."
No shit.
And then he directed me to Jack Hill's. So I get them. And I'm like, yo, your homie Jono says you have a studio and shit. And he's like, oh, yeah, freestyle. It's all freestyle.
Oh my God.
And then he's like, yo, I'm having a show like next week. Why don't you come on stage with me, hype me up and shit? And
That's so quick.
And then, bro, it's so quick. He's like, come hype me up on stage. And then after that, I'll record you guys' tracks. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, bro.
And that was Jack Hill?
That was Jack Hill, bro.
Oh, shout out. That's crazy.
Shout out Jack Hill.
That's so cool, man. That's such a quick turnaround.
Bro, I had like, prior to that, I was like me, my homie Tibby, and TJ. We were just like writing raps. Like just in a bedroom, just fucking around. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just fucking around pretty much. Like for fun, nothing serious. But until that day, I met Jono and Jack and did that shit. I was like, yo, this shit's pretty cool. So after we opened for Jack, he recorded me. Like, it was like a 5 mixtape.
So what did you perform on the night if you hadn't had anything recorded?
But I didn't perform nothing, bro. I didn't perform anything. So I was just hyping him, right?
Oh, right,
And then I think the night that you came, that would have been the second time I was on stage, but this time I actually performed.
Oh, okay.
So after, back to the first story, I came and hyped Jack up, finished that. He recorded our first like 5 tracks, bro. Like that shit was trash.
5 tracks, that's
bro,
decent.
It was so bad. Like at the time, we thought it was lit, bro. I dropped that shit.
You'd be so excited.
I dropped that shit on SoundCloud. Like it got a few plays, bro. A couple thousand plays. Like people were telling me it was good.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't trust any of you guys who told me that shit was good. I've listened to it. It was trash. But yeah, after that, so I had those 5 tracks ready to go. And then Jack is like, I'm having another show. Come perform this time. And yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's so sick, bringing other people up like that.
Yeah, that was so
crazy.
dope. Like, again, if I hadn't even come to Dunedin, bro, I would like no interest in making music. So
Yeah, true.
I'm glad I came here, bro.
Definitely. Well, that's the thing with Dunedin is because it is so small, which is sort of, I guess, one of it's the things that people don't like about it. That story sort of proves why Dunedin is so good because like there's so few people doing certain things that it is actually quite easy to like impress someone because you can be like, oh, you rap. Like that would have been crazy in Dunedin like 5 years ago, like not that there weren't people rapping in Dunedin, but just like people that are actually out there wanting to do it. And someone's like, yo, like I've got someone else that does it. Like, let's hook you guys up.
100%.
Like how often would that happen in like Wellington or Auckland? Like I haven't really experienced that sort of thing, but I can imagine it is quite congested with people that are wanting to do that. It's hard to stand out. So that sort of makes sense that situation happened.
Yeah, like, bro, I got so much love for this city for like that reason, bro. Like a lot of people that I've met have become like really good friends from Dunedin. So just I kind of understand people who are like tired of the city because like well, most people are just been here all their lives. So obviously, if you live somewhere, you want to branch out and move. But Dunedin's dope, bro. Like, it's fucking dope.
You've lived in a few cities over the last few years, haven't you? You've obviously been in Melbourne and stuff like that.
Melbourne, Townsville, Wellington, Palmerston North, Dannyburg.
True. That's a lot. What stands out to you about any particular place? Like, you're pretty happy with Dunedin at the moment, but like, what was really happening in other cities? Like, what was it like being in Melbourne in the music scene?
So, Melbourne, I don't really live in Melbourne, bro. I stayed in Melbourne for like a few months, 8 months, because my sister was out there and I was kind of summer break type shit. But bro, Melbourne is the best city I've been to personally.
Yeah.
Like, just that whole art scene, especially if you're an artistic individual, like, you're gonna enjoy it. And one thing I found there, there's something for everyone, bro. Like, whatever you're into, you will find it there. Like, I remember going to like strictly hip hop clubs where you have to dress a certain like hip hop way to get in. If you're like dressed in a button up and a t-shirt, you can't get in. So I fully enjoyed that experience. Other places was like Townsville. My family lives there. My family's in Townsville, so I was mostly with family. I was in Mount Isa. Have you heard of Mount Isa, bro?
I haven't.
Bro. Mount Isa is like in the outback of Australia.
Oh,
I'd say there's like around maybe 5,000 people, maybe. I'm not too sure.
That's tiny.
But bro, this was like when I came from New Zealand and it was like my first time moving to Australia. Just got there, had no friends, bro. Shipped off to boarding school in the middle of fuck all.
Whoa.
And I was like probably one of the only black people at my school, bro. So it was such a weird experience, bro. Like, it was, I don't know, I've just had heaps of weird experiences like that because I'd always be moving like every 3 years.
Yeah, right.
So building connections has always just been weird with people. So Mount Isa was different. It was a weird time in my life. So.
Yeah. How long ago would that have been? When you were in school, obviously.
Yeah, like 2011 and 12.
Yeah, right. So that would have sort of been pre-music stuff.
Yeah.
So like in terms of cities that you've been in, like while you're making music, like have you had like, you would have played shows over most of the country, I presume?
I've played mostly Dunedin, Wanaka, Christchurch and Wellington.
How long were you in Wellington for when you were there?
Wellington, I was there for like almost like a couple months, 6, 7, 8.
Did you hook up with any people while you were up there, like producers or anything?
Nah. Like this. Are you talking about now? When I'm making music now?
Yeah. I just want to sort of get a grasp of like how other cities compare to Dunedin in terms of like the music scene. If you have any sort of insight to that.
So when I went to Wellington, it was mostly for a show, bro. Sure. Like I was there.
You went there.
Show.
Yeah.
And then dipped out. But I like the Wellington scene, bro. From what I know about it, like, well, what I did know about it, I know there's been a little bit of politics there, and like people who used to mess with each other don't mess with each other, and there's been new artists coming up, so I'm excited to see like what's happening in Wellington, man. Like, shout out Lil Dust who's out there,
definitely.
Shout out Wagwan, shout out everyone in Wellington doing their thing.
That's crazy. You've done a bit of work with Lil Dust over the last few years.
Yes, sir.
Is he good to work with?
Like, he's professional, bro. He likes to make sure that things sound the best quality.
It's crazy, yeah. He really wanted to learn. I remember he would always tell me that he always wanted to learn how to really do the mixing and mastering side of it, because not a lot of people really want to do that as an artist.
Yeah.
And the fact that he taught himself that,
bro,
he's just taken him so much
really
further.
good. He's really good.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's so cool. He's doing really well too in Wellington. That's crazy. So many people want to make the move to Wellington.
Yeah,
and it's obviously works out in a lot of ways for most people. Like, there's obviously a reason why you would move there, but I mean, I personally don't feel the need to move out of Dunedin, at least yet, for what I'm doing. Like, I feel like people just sort of hop on the idea of going to Wellington because they think, you know, their life's just going to change when they move there. Like, I think there's a difference between somewhere that's like, someone that's like, oh, okay, I've done Dunedin, like, I'm at a really good place, I can take myself further, there's more places for me to go and people to make connections with in the city, I think I should move there and progress. That's cool. But a lot of people, I think, just go, oh yeah, Wellington's where it's at, I'll just like jump in the pool of Wellington creatives and just see what happens. And that's what I don't really understand and see a lot of people doing. But I think you have to be really prepared I feel like you have to have conquered the city you're in before you move somewhere else.
100%.
Because otherwise you're just. I don't know. You're going to end up
be
back
in the same spot,
position.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like, realistically, all that's different is you're just in a new city. Like, it's
Same
not like
spot, new city.
it's Hollywood or something. You're just literally in the same setup. It's crazy.
Facts, bro. Like, I'm definitely considering a move soon because I feel like I've overstayed my stay in Dunedin.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, man. Maybe Wellington, maybe Auckland. We'll see. Right now, I'm just trying to get some work out before
definitely.
making any moves.
And again, that would be just making most of what you have now, because you've obviously got a studio space you can go to. You've got guys that you work with that are here for you.
100%.
Kind of makes sense to be here, And I don't know about Auckland, Like, Auckland's so big.
Yeah.
I feel like it is more sort of, I suppose, ahead, if you can say ahead. It is more of a city than like Dunedin is, and Wellington's still pretty big in that regard. But yeah, I couldn't jump from Dunedin to Auckland. Personally, at least, I don't know what there would be for me.
Have you lived outside of Dunedin or?
Not really. Technically, I was in Melbourne in like 2016. So my friend had moved up because he just wanted to move to Melbourne, I think. And so he'd had a job hooked up there before he went over. And he was my best mate at the time. And he was just like, we had always joked around about moving to Melbourne together. And that was just such a foreign concept to me that I sort of just laughed it off. I was like, yeah. And then one day he finally said, no, you should seriously move to Melbourne with me. Like, what are you doing here? Seriously.
Yeah.
And this sort of contradicts what I was saying. But I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's move to Melbourne. I would have been probably 18 or 19 at the time.
Yeah.
And I really had no idea what it was going to be like or what I was going to do there, because I wasn't doing anything that I'm doing now at the time. I was quite literally like just working a retail job, doing nothing else outside of work. So I was like, well, might as well see what Melbourne's like.
Yeah.
So I moved there with him. We were basically crashing on our friend's couch for like 3 weeks, and I still hadn't got a job. Like basically every day it was like get up, walk down the street, go into every store and be like, hey, here's my CV, and just like constantly having people telling you no.
Yeah,
it's like the worst feeling, man. It was just like, that was on the daily basis, just going and then getting food and then like being rejected all day. And I was like, man, this is just getting so old.
I went through the same thing when I was in Melbourne. Bro. Got rejected so much until I finally got like a little retail job at Connor. So
I think it's just because it's so heavily populated there.
100%.
To be fair, like when I was looking for work, I was being quite picky. I was picking out the stores that I wanted to work at, because my mindset was like, well, I'm not going to just move to Melbourne, and because I work at Mighty 10. They don't have that over there, but they have Bunnings. I was like, I'm not going to just go over to Melbourne and work at Bunnings. I will be back at square one. So my thought process was like, well, if I'm going to live in Melbourne, I'm going to work at like a coffee shop or like a cool clothes shop or something like that. So I was going into these particular places, getting jobs, and that would have been why I was getting rejected, because they probably only can pay like 3 or 4 staff there anyway. Like not everyone's always advertising, and there'll be so many more people like me in Melbourne that are thinking the exact same, but don't have like, that thing was I didn't really have a safety net. So if I couldn't get a job, it was back to New Zealand, like I was pretty much burning through my savings. So I don't know if I really quote unquote lived in Melbourne, but I was there for 2 months, and it was sick though. Like from what I saw, again, I wasn't really part of anything. Like I only really got into the sort of the music scene when I came back to Dunedin. So that's the sort of the irony in all of it, is that I found what I wanted where I already was. But I had no sort of, the only thing that I really had as an interest was skating. Yeah. And so quite a lot of what I saw in Melbourne was like skating. Like you see skaters here, but I was like, in Melbourne, I'm going to see skaters everywhere. And sure enough, like on every block, there's skaters. And that was really cool to see for me at the time, because I was like, wow, there's actually like a big scene of people here doing this sort of stuff. But I didn't go to like I went to a couple of gigs that our friends had played at, but like no actual gigs or concerts or anything like that. So I was really out of touch with what was actually happening in Melbourne. So I don't really like to say that I lived there, or like, oh yeah, I've done the Melbourne thing, because I haven't. I was literally just there trying to find my way and couldn't. So, but it's a really nice city.
100%.
Really enjoyed my time there. Like it's so sick and so hot.
Yes, bro.
Coming from Dunedin, it's a bit of a shock.
Bro, I remember one time I was there, it was like 45 degrees, and I was going like walking on my way, job hunting. Just 45-degree weather, bro. It literally felt like someone turned the heater on.
Yeah, man. I would tell people it was like walking through a hairdryer. That's how hot it was, because like that wind was literally just like so hot.
Wind, bro.
It's twice as hot as like what we ever get here. It was like absurdly hot. Like we couldn't even walk. Me and my friend had went out to get lunch one time, and we barely made it back. Like we just went down the road and to get pizza or something. And it was like, I can barely make this walk. Like we're just dripping in sweat. Like we're just so not used to this.
Now the weather needs to calm down over there.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And it'll be getting worse too.
Bro,
Melbourne won't even be the worst of it either.
It's been really hot here too. Like
this week has been
last week
crazy.
was hot, bro. I was like, yo, am I just comfortable here now, or is this weather going crazy?
It is. It does pick up randomly. I typically run pretty hot, so any kind of hot weather just affects me in the most annoying way. Like I'm so used to the cold now that I think that's just how my body runs. But this week has been annoying because it gets really like rainy at night, but then it gets really hot in the day. So you've got the humidity throughout the day while it's like super hot, and that just sort of adds to the feeling because you're just so muggy and that's like it's nice to have some nice weather, but like in Dunedin it doesn't really work out like it does in like Australia because the suns are harsh too. So you get this sort of weird sunny day, which is not really pleasant, but it's nice, and it's like so strange. So how was your 2020? Let's talk 2020. What was it like for you? Like what were you? We talk about in New Zealand, we're obviously pretty COVID free and everything. We had our lockdown, which wasn't really anything compared to what the rest of the world was going through. And it was so long ago for us now. But like, what were you doing at that time? How did you take advantage of that time, or how did you cope through that period? 2020.
I don't want to call 2020 a shit year. I want to say it was a year for a lot of lessons. 2020 started off really strong for us, I'm not gonna lie. Like, so New Year's came, I was still in Australia, and then I was coming back February 14th of Valentine's Day, and we already had a show in Christchurch. I was flying in, flew to that show next day, did the show. That was lit, bro. Like heaps of people turned up in Christchurch. Shout out Christchurch, bro. They always pull through when we're there, so heaps of people turned up, and then we came back to Dunedin and it was like O week, and then I think we had like 3 shows during O week, and then nothing happened for a bit. I think we were planning like shows throughout the country. We were just planning like Wanaka, Wellington. We were planning heaps of stuff, and then COVID came. It really derailed everything that was going on. Like even in my personal life, I remember. Our landlord, this is a fucked up situation, bro. So we were pretty much, me and a homie, we was like staying in a flat, and we're paying rent to this guy who wasn't paying the rent to the building owner.
Oh, Jesus.
And then the like guy who owns the building just came and he's like, yo, pack your shit, you gotta dip. This guy's not being paying rent, so you guys need to pack your shit in 15 minutes and get out of here. And
the actual landowner said that. Yeah, right.
We're like, oh, what the fuck? We're like, all right, cool. And this was like just a week before COVID lockdown hit, bro. So I had to like find a place real quick. So I found that place. And during lockdown, I mean, like, I think like most people, well, I don't know what most people did, but I know I just took that time to like relax. I was writing and posting some freestyles on Instagram and doing all that. But for me, I don't know. It was, I got more creative. I was writing a lot, but there was really not much I could do in terms of like trying to go to the studio and record or anything like that.
So you didn't really have any gear at home to work with?
Yeah, nah, I was not prepared for the lockdown, bro. But yeah, just wrote music, chilled.
That's kind of all you could really do, isn't it? It's such a weird time. Like you say, you're in such a high, and then it literally gets all taken away.
Wow.
Like it's so rare to have that happen, you know, like literally have to put life on pause for a bit. It's so crazy.
It was a weird time. I mean, we'd talk with the boys like, damn, this year, like we started off really high, like things were moving in order, but outside of COVID, like things kind of went lit too, bro. Like,
yeah, right.
I remember we'd done heaps of shows here after COVID. We did We opened for Just B. Shout out Just B. We opened for Just B in Christchurch.
Sick.
That was sick. Probably one of our best shows we've had to date. Like, I don't know. I think things just slowly started picking up. And
Yeah, and again, because our lockdown was so short in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really like a huge amount of time for anyone to sort of be taken off the map, you know. Like if you couldn't work and couldn't put stuff out, it wasn't like anyone had forgotten about you. It was just like a little pause in everyone's life here, really. It was just like you could sort of pick it up again pretty quickly.
Facts.
Yeah. So we're lucky in that regard compared to like America. Imagine being a musician in
Still
America
in
and just
lockdown,
not being able to like go and do anything. Like if you got, you probably would have accumulated some gear by now, like just ordering stuff to your house, but still, it's pretty hard. Like not being able to play live shows and stuff, because that's the majority of revenue for artists is playing shows, right? Mm-hmm. That would suck, man. I can't imagine.
Nah, shout out Jacinda. She did it bad. They caught it early.
Yeah, I was pretty thankful for that for sure. I mean, that could have been so much worse if it had been done too late, or if it's pretty crazy how it worked out actually. But like, it's weird to think that, you know, there's a lot of comparisons that go on. Like we've sort of been put on the map in this whole thing in terms of like how we've dealt with COVID and, you know, got nice cases, and there's so many arguments going on about like comparisons. Oh, well, if America would have just done it soon, or if everyone actually follows the rules and rah, rah, rah. And granted, a lot of that is true, but like we are really an isolated country with a very small population. Like it's pretty easy to stop things coming in and out. So we did have that as good leadership as we had. We did have the benefit of just being in the country that we were in, you know.
I feel like America, it was never going to work out.
Yeah.
Like there's just too many people, different states, different laws in different states. Like it's bound to be happening. But what's happening there is crazy right now, bro. Like everything politically, like the racial tension over there. Like,
so crazy. The start of this year was just,
bro.
That first week of January over there was like, holy fuck. It was literally opening like the gates of 2021. So that I looked at it, I was like, fuck, here we are. So crazy.
Here we go again.
Yeah, that's wild. I can't believe that they could get away with what they did, the people that went into the...
Yeah, stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. If you compare it to like all the other stuff that happened earlier in the year, like when all the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening over there, and the amount of policing and security that was everywhere when that was going on, it's like, this is literally what you were afraid of happening, and you're not doing anything about it. It's just ridiculous.
I am not surprised. Like, literally nothing surprises me anymore, bro. Like, especially in America, it happens there. It's like,
I've said that a lot recently, and just any news these days just does not surprise you. Like that's pretty crazy that in itself, but it's still like, like it was inevitable.
I don't know if we just like become numb to this shit because we've been seeing so much happening over social media. But I'm really, not that I don't care or anything. I do care, but like it doesn't faze me as much, bro. Like I'm just so used to seeing it. So.
And the fact that you can have all this news presented to you whether you want it or not through social media as well is another thing that dampens things, because you have so much content that is in a meme format and so many content that is in like a realistic format that sort of gets faded over each other, and sometimes you see what is news and it just appears to, you see it sort of in line with all this other comedic content that you see, and it sort of just becomes nothing because it does just get sort of merged in with everything else. I think that's what a lot happens, and especially how a lot of millennials interpret content that they see on social media. You kind of just laugh some things off because it seems as though it's like a joke, or people make jokes out of serious situations, and so it's hard to actually like interpret what is actually happening. And I think that's why with certain things it just sort of goes over our head because we're like, America. That's so crazy, man. But I mean, I hate to say it's not our problem, but like, I don't know how much of this sort of stuff sort of affects us as a country. It sort of it affects things like, you know, in the grand scheme of where we're headed culturally and racially, you know, and all these issues and things. But, you know, you can't really do much about it, you know. It's gonna turn its own wheel. It's crazy.
Like, there's nothing we can do about like the people storming the Capitol building. But I feel like to be aware of just how we interact in New Zealand culturally, like just how we treat each other, like just how we view, like I feel like let's say, I feel New Zealand's real new and having like a lot of immigration coming in, whether it's like blacks. I know it's new African immigration, but I'm sure like Asians and other people have been here. But I don't know. What I'm trying to say is like, we can watch and learn from America and know
Definitely.
what not to do and not go on that pathway.
Yeah, definitely. And it's pretty easy to do. And again, a lot of it comes down to the leadership too. Like we have Jacinda, they have Donald Trump. Like that's a huge part of how the country's being run, you know, so that affects everything. But yeah, I think culturally we are just very different anyway. Like the Kiwi culture is very, I don't know if modest is right, the word. We just have a genuinely like friendly sort of atmosphere around here. Like most places you go, like a big part of New Zealand culture can be quite standoffish. I've noticed that too. But I think genuinely everyone's just sort of doing their own thing. No one's really too worried about what other people are doing, just in the big picture. Yeah. And we sort of also have like the fact that we all really followed the lockdown rules and COVID is because we all follow the rules for the most part, whereas a lot of American culture is, this is my country and these are my things and this is my property and I have the right to go out and do this and that. So that just obliterates anything any government doing, because people are just going to do what they want. And people know that there are going to be a huge mass of people that are going to agree with what they say, because there is a huge mass of people there. You just can guarantee if you went out to the street and started preaching something, you'd get a huge group of people and you could go and do whatever you wanted, which is a crazy thing to think. Whereas Dunedin, if someone just ran down the octagon yelling some crazy shit about Trump or God knows what,
people look at you like,
what, bro? Like it just doesn't happen the same way. So that's, I think, a big part of why these things happen in America is just there's such a huge divide between left and right.
100%.
That it just you're never going to have the whole country really happy, because there's so many people that believe vastly different things from different parts of the country. Like that's another thing. The country's so big. You literally have like a whole population of people on either side that haven't really sort of met each other or been able to sort of like, you know, again, in the grand schemes, obviously people have sort of been everywhere in America, but like
interact with each other.
You know,
like,
it doesn't really cross over. Whereas New Zealand, everyone's everywhere, really. So like we all sort of have the same way of thinking. Like you look at like how the voting came out for the well, not completely, but if you look at the stats that came out on the election last year, look how many people voted for Labour and the rest of the country voted. Like that's a huge chunk compared to other elections, at least, of how those numbers have worked out. But like the American one, that was pretty 50-50 the whole way. So that's another, there is definitely a population in New Zealand of people that are, I guess, right wing, if you're going to call it that, which is weird to think. Like the amount of people. It's weird to think a party like New Conservative, for some reason, the fact that they are there is kind of weird to think, because you sort of see a lot of that in America, and it was weird to see how many like that actually getting votes. Like it's weird to think, because like of course you're in the echo chamber of your own views as well. Like you're typically going to surround yourself with leftist people if you're a leftist person, and you're going to see majority of what you believe in through social media because you follow certain people that agree with you. So it's weird to think that there is a population out there that are voting like the complete opposite of what you are, because you never see those people in real life. But then when you see the stats up on the board, it's like, oh, New Conservative 1.6% of the vote. It's like, what? It's so crazy. Yeah, and I think that's another part, just a reason why we've done so well with everything. It's just we're pretty like, everyone's pretty, we're New Zealanders, you know?
Yeah, nah, shout out New Zealand.
Do you think you're planning to move somewhere eventually? You're wanting to sort of get out of Dunedin, but you want to stay in New Zealand, I presume? Like if you didn't have the limitations of COVID going anywhere else in the world, do you think you'd still want to be in New Zealand? Like, can you see yourself in like LA or something like that? Because that's just a whole nother step up. Like,
it just depends at what point I am in life.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, personally, I don't really rate America that much, regardless. So.
Well, after what we've seen, you know, like it's kind of weird to think to move there.
Yeah, but if I can have a successful life in New Zealand, I don't see a need to move.
Makes sense.
But if I see different options of success leading me somewhere else, bro, I'll go. Whether it's China, I'll go, bro. Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, if the means are there, you know, if you've got a way to get there, you know, you've got stuff set up. Like, I think that's the only realistic way you'd see yourself moving in is. Whereas if you you knew what you were getting into when you got there, you know. Like, it's such a crazy thing to think that you could just move to another city and you'll find your way once you're there, because it just never works out.
That's what I did
You
coming
just
here.
get swallowed up. Yeah.
That's how I came to Dunedin, bro. Like, I was talking to my homie who I hadn't talked to in like 5 years, and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing, bro?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing anything, man. I'm just at home chilling at mom's." He's like, "Bro, come study in Dunedin." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I'm in Dunedin," and I was in Australia at this point.
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, for real?" He's like, "Yeah, come through, bro. You can stay with me." And I'm like, "I bet." Book my ticket. Book my ticket the next week, bro. I was in Dunedin.
That must have been pretty convincing. 'Cause what were you, this was when you were in Melbourne.
This was when I was in Townsville. Like, because I was, prior to me moving to Townsville, I was working in the mines at Mount Isa for a
Really?
bit. Yeah.
Whoa, what was that like?
Bro, like, it was long, bro. Hard work.
Yeah, sounds like it. A friend of mine was doing that. I don't, he might still be doing it, that I went to school with. He was over there in Melbourne, somewhere in Melbourne or out of Melbourne, working in the mines. I was like, what? Like, is it literally involved, like mining?
What's
like,
that?
It's another stupid question, but like, what were you doing there? Were you literally mining, just like hacking away?
I was just pretty much like guarding the gates things in the mines.
Oh, really?
Not actually doing the mining.
True. That's such an interesting field of work. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so so after that, like, I fractured my pelvis playing football.
Whoa.
It was just
How did you manage that?
I thought I was messy, bro. So I try to like do the
Bicycle
slide
kick or some shit?
No, I try to do like the slide kind of shoot thing.
And you just
so I
landed
slid like, and my legs stayed in place, but the rest of the body went and just fractured. I remember the coach was like, "No, just put some ice,
Nah.
just spray some coolie." I'm like, "Bro, I think I'm done."
Jesus.
So I had to like move from Mount Isa back to my mom's because I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And then I was healing, and then I just decided to stay in Townsville because Mount Isa was not it.
Was it a slow process to heal?
Yeah, bro. Like, there's nothing they can do. You just have to let it heal by itself.
Right, you don't get cast up or anything.
Yeah,
you just sort of sit there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I think it was maybe like a couple months, bro. Maybe 4 or 5. And then I stayed in Townsville. Like, never try to get work in Townsville. They do not hire you, bro. They did not hire me for like 2 years. So I was like,
What, just in anything?
Anything, bro. Like, anything. I maybe got a job going like door-to-door salesperson, like for trying to get people to sign up to like this electrical company, bro. But man, that shit was a scam, bro. Like,
Yeah, it's weird to think that when you realize like you're part of a scam and you're just trying to scam people.
Like,
it's like, oh, fuck.
honestly, bro, I like, they took me from a different city, so from Townsville to Cairns, to do this door-to-door shit. And then as I'm there in Cairns, I'm like, bro, this shit is a scam. Like, so I was just like, bro, I'm not fucking with this. And they're like, nah, send you back. And I'm like, definitely send me back, bro.
Yeah, that's such a weird concept to go door to door.
Yeah,
like literally knocking on strangers'
like,
doors and being like, hey, sign up to this and we'll give you such and such. Like, it's so weird. You're literally in their personal space. Like, it's
like, bro,
can't imagine that.
I felt so bad, bro. I ended up calling like all the, because I'm not sure if they knew that old people live here, but a lot of them were pretty older.
Yeah, right.
So I had to call them back. I'm like, hey, just cancel everything I said. Like,
yeah,
cancel it. So they sent me back. But I was in Townsville for a bit after that. No job, not doing anything. And my homie called. He's like, come to Dunedin, come study.
that's so sick, man. So what did you end up studying?
So I studied, my grades didn't transfer, so I had to do like a certificate 3 and foundation, and then certificate. I did a foundation course, then certificate 4 business, then did commerce for a bit, then social services.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sick.
And now I'm trying to do commerce again.
Try and do it again, as in like
so
a postgrad or like?
No, the first time I didn't finish.
Oh, true.
Because I moved to, what's it called? Invercargill for a bit.
No kidding.
I moved to Invercargill to try to get the fees free.
Oh, right.
SIT.
Yeah.
Bro, not worth it.
Didn't happen?
Not worth it. Like, Invercargill was just grey the whole time. Just the worst time.
Yeah.
Like, shout out Invercargill, but damn, bro. It was,
I've never heard of anyone that's moved to Invercargill ever.
I just took an L, bro.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean that's probably why they have that scheme, to get people down there.
bro. Now they got me, bro.
Was that before you could get first year free?
Yeah,
Yeah?
this was before first
Right.
year 3.
Right. Well, fair enough, but
But yeah, it was
Just
not
take
worth
the L.
it. It was not worth it. If you don't go to SID.
that's so funny. And you've had you were talking before about Christchurch. You say Christchurch is a pretty good place to be. That's sort of the first I've heard of anyone really saying that, to be honest.
Not saying that Christchurch, bro. I've had bad experiences in Christchurch, like being arrested for fuck all, bro. But not. I like Christchurch. Every time we come there and perform, they always come up. Like they show love. They come through.
That's crazy. So you've got a name there, obviously.
Yeah.
Did you ever live there for a bit?
Never
People
lived there.
just, People just went
Never
there
lived there, bro. I think
and loved it.
yeah, other people have just come from their friends inviting them to a show, or they've seen our stuff on social media. But yeah, when we go out, they show love. Like shout out all the Christchurch boys, man. Like they're always showing love. So
So is it still like the best shows are when you come back to Dunedin?
pardon?
Is it still like are the Dunedin shows still the better shows for you, or would you say there's other places like other cities that you've had better performances in, like a Wellington show, say compared to Dunedin? Is it always like so good to play back in Dunedin, or is it like, man, that's crazy to go and do a Wellington show?
I think
Because it's both like I guess you'll have more followers in Dunedin.
yeah. I think it's the feeling of going somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of Dunedin, that's really like exhilarating. I
Yeah,
guess
that's the buzz.
that's like the best part for me. But man, like let's say Yuba shows always get lit. But are people there really to see us, or they're just there for like some
Yeah.
cheap drinks and have fun?
That's crazy, yeah. Because there's sometimes you can end up at a place and a show's on, you don't really know. You just sort of get there and pay on the door. You weren't really going there to see who's on, but you're there and you're like, oh yeah, sweet. Or you know, you went to see someone else, but you're opening for them, or like you're the main act, but they're here to see someone beforehand, sort of thing. So you sort of get like spill-ons from audiences anyway, I suppose, wherever you're at.
Yeah. So I enjoyed, like, bro, the Dunedin shows we do are always lit. They're lit. But I think I prefer going outside of Dunedin because that way you really see like who actually fucks with your music.
Yeah,
Like
who's going out of the way.
like who's coming to see you. Rather like Dunedin, you don't even have to come to see me, but you'll still have a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
That's sick, man. So where are you looking to take your music now? Like, what do you sort of have working in the moment? Like, not that I want you to spoil anything you got going on, but like, where are you sort of trying to head? Like, are you working towards an album, or like, what have you got on the agenda?
So I've been trying to do an EP for a while, bro, but it's just as I evolve my sound, like as I grow older, my sound is changing with me. So it's just a mixture of like trying to get the best songs that fit into my EP. But right now I'm focusing on like releasing singles. I want to focus on releasing singles,
I think that's smart.
build up a bigger fan base. And yeah, once I do that, that's when I want to drop an EP. So.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes sense to do it that way because you're keeping people interested. You're still dropping content. It's little bits at a time, but you're keeping people on the loop and you're getting people sort of more familiar with you as an artist, because it would be weird to think you just sort of drop like 1 or 2 songs and then
Straight
have people
into it,
wait for like a couple of years to get like an album or project out, because people sort of forget, you got to keep people interested. But I can imagine that would be hard trying to work on an EP but then make other stuff sort of on the side that doesn't sort of tie in. Like, I suppose there's points where you might come up with a single and then, oh no, that'd actually be good for the EP, and sort of put it into that list, or vice versa. You go, oh, that's sort of a throwaway, maybe I'll just release that on its own.
100%. Like, I think that thought process I had of like exactly what you discover, like making a single and like fitting it to the EP, it's slowed me down a lot.
Right.
I feel like at this point, I just need to drop singles. Yeah. Drop singles. And yeah, we'll see how that goes from then on and get that EP on the way. Like, I've made maybe like 3 or 4 different EP track lists.
True.
And just ended up changing them. So I'm going to hold off on that for a bit.
It's good though. Like, I think it's probably good to sit on it for a wee while, especially if you want it to be good. Like, there's such a difference between just dropping an EP and actually working on your next project, because you could really just have like a throwaway collection of songs on an EP
Yeah.
that people just sort of skim through and don't really think twice about. But you could take the time really to work on something proper, something that's cohesive and something that sort of makes sense as a collective. But that can take time. Like it must be so hard to orchestrate the two, you know, try and figure out how you actually keep blurting things out, I suppose. But I guess it depends what sort of genres you're into, because you could, like when you're getting beats and stuff for an EP, are you looking at a cohesive, what was the word I just used? You know what I mean? Cohesive beats. Like, you sort of looking out for something that matches, or is it just like something that hits for you and it's like sort of as soon as you listen to it?
Yeah. So how I look at like EPs and mixtapes and albums, it's all stories. It's a story, and I feel like my understanding of it has to match. It doesn't necessarily have like the beats have to be the same type of beats, but the story has to make sense.
Yeah, and that's got to translate through it all.
Yeah. So that's pretty much, I'm not really looking for a certain type of beat or a certain type of sound for the EP. I'm just trying to tell the best story for the project.
How often are you in the studio with a producer, or is it more just you get beats sort of sent to you? Because you've obviously got a few people here that you're working with. I presume in those times you're in the studio and they're tweaking stuff sort of at your discretion, I suppose?
So most of the time, I like to work by myself. Like, if I'm in a process of writing a song, there are times where I can get someone in to come in and like hear their idea and just like, because my homies who I make music with, the Voss Boys, they know what they're talking about. Like, they have the ear for music and they can hear certain things that can elevate the song, or just things that we need to switch up. But most of the time, I feel like it needs to be me on the paper. Like, it needs to be me on the song. If I have too many people talking in my ear, it might just throw things off. Like, I feel like, okay, there's no longer my vision for the song.
Yeah, that makes sense. It needs to be you through and through when you're making it.
But I always love hearing like people's advice and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But you, I guess in post though, you know, you want to present an idea and then get feedback when you want to, not just sort of having people there all the time.
Yeah,
but in terms of like the beat, like if you had a beat that you liked and you had it there and you're in the studio by yourself when you're working on it, and then you sort of do some sort of vocal line or ad lib and you want the beat to sort of, you know, fade out or something or do something else in that, would you sort of send it back to the producer and they give it back to you again? Or are you like, let's go to the studio today because I want to execute this idea?
What would do?
Or is it not that deep?
I'll get the stems sent to me. Whoever produced the beat, I'll say, yo, send me the stems. I want to switch it up and we'll go from there.
Okay, so you can manipulate a bit when you have to. Yeah, so that's cool. That's handy. Because otherwise you're stuck a wee bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to have, bro. Like shout out Michael Muesli as well, bro.
I was going to mention him before because that's a name I've seen propping up heaps on your Instagram.
He's doing things, bro. Like Muesli's the homie, bro. He was recording me 2018. So 2018, 2019. Like, that's just the homie, bro. He's doing his thing. He's killing it out there in Auckland.
And he's done a wee bit of work with Errol as well, because I think that's where I've seen his name propped up too. It's a pretty good production.
Yeah, he's sick, bro. Like, he's so good, bro.
Do you think you'll ever get more into the beat making side of things?
Me?
Yeah.
I want to, bro.
It's fun.
Like, I think it would always be handy to like cook my own beats, how I would like a sound for myself.
Yeah, for sure.
But man,
it is hard.
It's just me putting in that effort too, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's something I really need to do, just because musically I don't have like a lot of influences. Like, I don't listen to a lot of music, so because I find that like if I do listen to music, it may influence my sound.
Yeah.
So I try like to listen to like no music at all.
That makes sense.
Or I only listen to like a certain playlist, like how you do it as well. So yeah, if I did have that talent, I think it would be so dope, because I feel like in my head I'll be able just to create something different, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a fine line because there's so many producers that do their own work. They make the beat and they rap on it themselves. But how I interpret this, and I obviously, you know, my opinion on these sort of things are just based around how I think I would be in a certain scenario. But I just know through making beats that I can get sick of my own stuff so quickly. So the benefit of having beats being given to you is you don't have that, you completely eliminate that sense of doubt around the beat because it's like, oh, should I have done this differently? Or I'm sick of this melody because I made it, you know. Whereas when someone else has done it for you, like imagine getting sent the whoop-de beat.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you know, you're not, if you had made it, it probably would sound so much different than if someone else did.
But
so I feel like there's such a fine line between like appreciating the music. Like you can get way too personally caught up in the music because when you've done every single little bit, it can eat away at you. At least that's what it would feel like to me, you know. So it's probably good that you have producers there with you.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite, bro.
You reckon?
Like I enjoy the stuff that I do. Like not to sound cocky or
Yeah,
anything,
no, well,
but
that's
I just
good though.
genuinely
It's
like
super helpful creatively. Of course.
enjoy my music. Like, and like again, that's also another thing that got me into making music. Like I want to listen to music that I like.
For sure.
So I'm gonna make music that I like.
Makes sense.
So I don't know. I feel like if I was making beats, I've made beats before. I've gotten decent at making beats. It's just I didn't practice, and now I don't have that skill.
Yeah, for sure.
But when I was, bro, I was enjoying like the beats I was making. I think
That's
it was
good,
more
man.
like, yo, I actually did this. Like,
Yeah, true.
I think that's
Adds a whole nother level of confidence.
yo, I did this. Like, and it's not bad. So
Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense. And not to say that like every, you know, beat that I make is I think is trash, because there's obviously like I'm making it the way I want it.
Yeah.
You know, in that process. But it's more just sort of coming back to it or like listening to it over and over again. So like how you explained you do with some things. I just sort of get bored of it. And I'm sort of on to the next one. I'm sort of still waiting for that beat. You know,
like,
it
roughly
never
how-
really comes. But
how let's say you're listening to a track that you've made. Or how often do you say you'd listen, like you've played it over and over, like
to the beat?
Yeah.
Well, the thing with this me, because I'm no musician, and I'm like, this is not making beats and making music is not on my sort of, you know, it's not a big passion of mine. It's just something I do on the side. But when I'm making beats, I pretty much get to a point where I've got like a loop, got like a 4, 8, maybe 16 bar loop.
Yeah.
And then that's it. Pretty much, and I'll just come in and I'll just listen to that. I rarely lay a beat out, because I still struggle to just get to the stage where I feel like a beat is worthy of me laying it out.
Yeah.
I do have one at the moment that I've fully laid out, front to back, and exported it, and I've been listening to that pretty much like every day for the last couple of weeks. So that's sort of sitting on the shelf, I suppose. But typically, my beat making process is I'm really just fucking around. Like I'm not seriously like, right, hey, you know, I don't want to be a big musician. Granted, that would be sick. Like that has been a dream of mine, but I'm not seriously pursuing that because I have artwork and podcasts and everything else to do. So it's really just having fun. So for me, I guess the question is sort of a bit biased because I don't really have the ambition to really take it anywhere. So it is just fun, but I can listen to things over and over way too much for sure, and it drowns it out.
No, I thought about it. Like, it'd definitely be different listening to like a beat on its own without no vocals or anything. So, like, I can get tired of listening to just an instrumental.
Yeah, for sure.
But
the thing is, if you're an artist and you're putting lyrics, if you're wanting to be the artist for the track, that's such a step up when you start putting vocals on the beat, because realistically, like these days, the beats is a good chunk of what makes music.
100%.
That's what people are looking for, especially in
100%.
trap and stuff. But at the same time, like when vocals come in, people's attention sway. So the beat can come in really hot and you're like, yes, cool, we're into this. And then the vocals can come in and not that the beat fades away, but your attention is focused on the lyrics more. So when you start to actually put vocals onto a beat, it feels more like the song's finished because you're not focusing on the beat so much. You're more just focusing on the time. And that's something I haven't really experienced because I've never really started to put vocals on my own track. I've done it like one time, like 3 years ago. And I've just never really, it's funny how much I didn't like that beat until I put vocals on it and listened back. And I was like, oh, it's a song now. Because you just, it's sort of the rhythm is in you and it's overlaid with something else. So it's not, you're not fully looking at just the beat. And I think that's why I'm sort of stuck with beat making because I just haven't decided to put vocals or anything
like
on top.
the first time I really like felt that, there was this Young Thug, I forgot the name of the song, but
You forgot a Young Thug song?
I forgot the name. But bro, like the song was fire. I think maybe it was like, I want to say With That or Check, one of them. But I was like, yo, I wanna hear rap to the instrumental because bro, Young Thug just killed that song. I heard the instrumental and I was like, yo, this is not the same song.
Crazy,
Like, this does not sound
most
that
of the
good.
times I think like most of the time you're not actually going to find the beat of that song. You're just going to find some remake of it. And you're like,
But bro, like it was the beat. It was the beat. It's just the vocals were that good that it made the song just fire. So
that's crazy how much that can happen, and especially with like a lot of artists and rappers doing ad libs and stuff as well. And a lot of people get into the more melodic side of things, like actually trying to sing on rap songs too. It's a whole nother instrument. It's a whole nother layer. Like it becomes like 50% or more of the song because they're putting all this stuff on. You take that away and you're sort of left with nothing a lot of the time. Because a lot of artists, I imagine, will approach music the opposite way, where rather than having a beat and putting lyrics on, they write something first and they just need a beat to go along with it, you know?
That is a terrible way to like...
Have you tried it that way?
I could never do that.
It's crazy.
To me, it wouldn't make sense. Like I've never wrote like that, so... But
you'd have to have an idea, like, I suppose, already you wanted to get out.
I've written lyrics for a different beat, but put them on another beat.
Oh yeah.
But I've never really like just wrote random lyrics randomly and then be like, okay, time to look for a beat. Like,
yeah. Well, I suppose you can't do that a lot of the time.
That would be
because
so
you don't
weird.
know how the beat's going to be laid out. But you could write a song. Like you could be like, okay, well, I want to write a song about, I don't know, my new car or something, you know, and you've got that idea for what you're going to talk about, and and then you just want someone to produce the beat to go along with it. I can imagine that process, but you could never write some lyrics and then go find a beat and put them together.
Like what I do with those things, right? Let's say I'm feeling some type of way. Let's say, I'm talking about some shawty who, I don't know, some girl, something happened, right? And I'm feeling some type of way about that. Like I can think of bars and write those bars, and then like save them and then look for a beat that could suit, but not like write the song from top to finish. Yeah. Finish the song and then look for a beat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't really work, does it? Because also like if you've recorded something, I guess that's another thing to add to it as well. If you just write the lyrics and haven't actually recorded anything, you could translate, you could mix things around to work on a beat. But if you've already recorded something, you're going to be in a certain key, then the beat's going to have to be in a certain key. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone works like that. That sounds terrible. But yeah, it's frustrating, man. Like again, I admire people that can write lyrics, because anything that I've ever written, whether it's lyrics or trying to write something, whether it's a poem or something, I just can't get past my own like, I don't know. I didn't even know what you call it. Like, I'll look at something and be like, that's corny as fuck, or like that doesn't mean anything, you know? Because I don't know. It's that self-loathing sort of like feeling. I feel like everyone has it for something that doubt. Yeah, there's definitely. It's not like I'm like that with everything. It's just with that one sort of aspect. Like I don't feel that way about my artwork. Like I can feel confident in that, but writing, lyrics.
Usually,
man, I just can't.
Man, again, like. Usually those type of things, it's just you, bro.
Yeah.
And someone else will see it and they'll be like, yo, that shit's fire.
Yeah.
Like, that's happened to me with songs. I'll drop songs and be like, bro, that shit's trash. Like, I just dropped it because. And then someone's like, yo, bro, this is your best song. I'm like, no, it's not.
Crazy.
It's not that good.
you're your own worst critic, you know? And that's really hard to get past, though. And this is obviously what's working out for you, is you have so many people around you that are working with you and telling you what you're doing right or wrong, or what sounds good to them. When you don't have that, it's such a tricky wall to break or get past, because you're literally just closed in by your own mind. Like you're the only person trying to sway yourself out of it. Well, it doesn't work out a lot of the time.
My advice with that would just like, it's easier said than done, bro, but you just got to do it, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
You just have to like, again, the first shit I did, bro, was trash. It was garbage, and I know that now looking back, but I'm glad I did it, because I think at every stage you kind of measure your progress, like from where I am now to where I began, bro. I'm proud of myself for that shit. Like, I've put in the work and the results have been shown. But yeah, like I said, bro, you just got to do it, man. Like,
yeah, you do. And I definitely believe in that philosophy, and I've applied that to a lot of things in my life. But I don't know what it is about music, eh?
Yeah.
Just as something. I think it is, again, just that sort of, because singing as well. If you end up singing on something, that's a pretty, like, if you're not used to it, it's pretty uncomfortable to really like express yourself.
Shout out autotune.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a crazy tool. And that could also be really hard to work with too, though. Like the times I've tried using it, I'm like, fuck, because you don't know what song what key of the song is, and you're out of key, and it's like
like, bro,
that is helpful for sure.
Like at the moment, bro, with the songs that I'm making, they're a lot melodic, and it requires a lot more singing than rapping, bro. And man, I just wish I trained my vocals. Like, I'm not the best singer, but with autotune, it can help out. But sometimes it's real frustrating when you know a sound that you have in your head and you know how you, like, I have a song that just destroyed me, bro. Yeah. There's perfect song. If I could sing, like, perfect song. If I could sing, bro, like, yeah. So what I have to do now, I just have to, like, get an actual vocalist to come in and sing that part, and then I guess I'm gonna have to rap the rest of the part.
Yeah, right. Oh, that is frustrating.
So frustrating.
But
bro.
I think that is the problem with autotune, because you're really having to, there's the myth around like, oh, you just put autotune, you can sing perfectly. It's not the case.
It's not the case.
The problem with it is you do have to really sing into it to be correct. If your key's way off, it's going to change that incredibly and sound terrible. But and that can actually not. I'm not speaking from experience here, but I can imagine that actually doesn't help your learning. It will do a wee bit for pitch correction if you just got it on quite lightly. But if you're really having to go out of your way to change the pitch of your voice to change to what you think is right, then you might not really have the knack for like it anyway. And it must I feel like it would be a much better approach, like what you say, where you have the sound of what you want the note to be already there, and you want to execute that. If you can't get that through the auto-tune, then you might as well just sort of record it without, or like at least try and put that idea without it, because the auto-tune's going to sort of get you so confused.
If that's not in your range, it's not in your range. There's nothing you can do about it. Like,
have you sort of figured out what key you can sing in, and like you want beats sort of made to that?
F minor. For all producers listening,
that's so
want to send me a beat, F minor. I promise you it's going to be heat.
That's super handy, man. I've always thought about that. I'm like, I feel like I have to make beats that are of a certain key for me to actually sing on it, because I typically make beats in D or D sharp. God knows why. I think it's actually the only chord I can actually play, so that's why I typically go to. But then when I go to sing on a beat that I made in that chord, I just can't do it. Just can't hit any of those notes nicely. Bro. It's frustrating as hell.
Like, that's how I feel when my tracks are not in F minor, bro. It's just like, damn.
Have you ever like changed the whole key of a beat? Yeah. You've been sent something just turn it down.
100%, bro. Like, I have to. Like, if I want it to sound similar to what I have in my head, no choice.
It's kind of nice sometimes when you turn the pitch down or something. It's a whole nother like emotional sort of layer to it. Yeah, that's sick. That's cool, man. That's so handy to be able to know that, because you could get pretty stuck otherwise if you can't really sing that well, which will be the case for a lot of people, especially people that just rap. Yeah,
like went through a lot of practice through it, like singing songs in the wrong keys, like just not sounding good.
Yeah, and that's where you need someone else too, because like sometimes you don't know if you're in key and you're singing. If you don't have auto-tune on, you're just singing and you think it sounds right. Someone could come in and be like, "Oh, what
is going on?
What is this, bro? Like this is terrible." You need someone else, because if you're not pitch aware, what is that even the right term? If you don't have a good ear for it, that's more the phrase. Then you're not going to know what's right or wrong. You're just sort of going to sing randomly, and it's just going to be nothing. Pitch aware,
I like that, pitch aware. If you're not pitch aware,
because it is. I think most people do have a point or a key or note or something that they're a bit fuzzy on. I feel like you have to be pretty trained to really able to hear everything that's in or out of key, it could, especially with vocals, because it's so fluid. You could really jump to anything that's out of that pitch. It's actually quite hard to keep a note, one note the same for like a decent amount of time, or fluctuate between this note and that note. Like, it's actually quite a skill to have. So I feel like a lot of people approaching a melodic idea in their song.
That's a good thing about like having the boys like Timmy, TJZ. They all know like their keys. They've like mastered playing keyboard, bro. They just know when something is out of key. So
that's
like,
crazy.
Whereas I'm like not really musically gifted, but I can write lyrics, I can rap. But they know how to play instruments. So they'll be like hearing something that I would think is like a normal key, and they're like, bro, nah, it's not in key, like change it.
Whoa, it's crazy, eh? And it can be so minute as well.
Yeah.
But it might just be the difference between like an F and an F sharp or something,
Yeah.
you know, just that wee bit out. It's hard to detect. But that comes from years of playing music, you know. As people that can actually play instruments, that'll be ingrained in them. Anyone that can play the keys free will, they're just going to know exactly what to and what not to have.
That's one thing I wish I picked up when I was younger. Because I used to go to church.
100%.
I used to go to church, and then they would like ask you, "Yo, come play keyboard," and I was like, "Nah, man." And they're trying to play keyboard.
It's funny when you're young and you think like that, but when you get older, you're like, "Fuck, I should have done it."
I would have been making beats.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the best tool, I reckon, for beat making. If you can play the keys, you can make beats.
yeah,
Like,
everyone I know, like a lot of people who I know who make beats played keyboard.
Yeah.
Or played some type of keys. Yeah.
Because that's your main tool when you're working with a laptop. And that translates to any instrument as well. You can do 808s with the keys. You can do hi-hats with the keys if you wanted to. It's crazy. Crazy
Messed that
tool.
up, man. Messed that up.
It's not too late though. That's the thing. That's what I have to keep reminding myself as well. It's like
Facts.
you can literally learn anything you want anytime, provided it's not like a physically enduring thing. Like you can pretty much do whatever you want anytime. Like I've slowly been learning things on keys over time, and just like you can cheat your way through like you know, Fruity Loops like DAWs these days are pretty like user friendly, and there's so many quote unquote hacks to like things as well. Like you can literally set up like a piano roll and put it in D, like highlight all the notes that are in a D key, you know, and just draw it in, you know, like that's how you get started. But then you learn. If you seriously want to learn something from that key, you can look and be like, hey, well, that's not the right note. That is the right note. And you just get accustomed. Like, that's a cool way to learn. Granted, it's probably not the proper way, but like you can pick up little things. And that's what I've got through doing it. Super helpful.
Like this the conversation, bro, is maybe want to get back into beat making. Because literally the past like 2-3 weeks, I've just been chilling. Yo, I need to start making beats. But it's just Buzzy that came here and we started talking about
That's it. Yeah. So you have Fruity Loops, right?
I have an old version of Fruity Loops 12, but it still works,
True.
bro. So.
Did you pay for it? Because I was going to say you get lifetime free up for it.
Yes.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Yes, I did.
No, I bought it back in 2018, I think. And when you buy it, you get lifetime free upgrades. So every time there's a new FL Studio,
I might just need to tell my friend to buy it. Yeah.
But if you have that and you have a computer, obviously you have a computer if you have it, that's really all you need, because you can play notes on your keyboard.
Facts.
Granted, that's a really annoying way of playing keys, but it's all there.
Yeah.
Like, this is sort of your philosophy, like what you were just talking about before, but you just have to do it.
100%.
Right? You just, if you want to make beats, you can just, all you need is your laptop and some headphones.
Just with like anything, bro. If you want to do anything, most of the time you're going to find it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I've been watching so many tutorials. Lockdown was good for tutorials.
Yeah.
Just watching tons of people just do random shit. And it's funny how much you actually pick up once you've watched enough, or watch like a certain amount of people do the same video. You pick up so many things, and you go and you're like, oh, I didn't know you could do this or this. Or even just little things, just like when they're showing you the process of how to do something, and they have a wee shortcut. You're like, oh, you can do that. Like, that's going to make my life so much easier. Just little things like that, and you just like build up and build up. It's crazy. But yeah, if you want to learn anything, you can do it. That's the crazy thing about today. And lockdown and COVID and everything has proved that you don't really have to leave the house to do a lot.
100%.
Like,
bro.
obviously, when there's a point where you need physical gear, but you can really learn anything you want. Whether it's, you know, I don't know, it's partly true, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say is we've come to a point where we've realized how much we can actually achieve from home rather than when we're outside. There's a lot of things we don't actually need to leave the house for.
Yeah, like I was watching like this Netflix little documentary series, and they had this dude who just taught himself like maintenance stuff. Like he knows how to do electrical stuff, fix toilets, just all from YouTube, bro. So like we were saying, man, just got to do it.
YouTube, greatest tool.
100%, bro. Like everything's there, everything's online, bro.
It's funny how many people are actually there doing that as well. It's weird to think like there's so many people doing those things, but there's only sort of a fair few people that are actually thinking, oh, well, I'll make a video on how to show people how to do this, you know. But there's a crazy amount of stuff on there.
There's like this guy, I think, I'm not sure if this is his name, but he's called like YouTube Dad. And he just pretty much like, because he grew up with no dad, so he makes
right.
YouTube videos for like kids without dads.
That's
and just
sick.
teaches them like how to do shit that their dad would teach them how to do.
That's
like,
so cool.
Change a tire,
Yeah.
shit like that. So
That's so nice. That's so sick too, because there'll be a lot of people in that scenario, and not necessarily just parents, but just like any kind of teacher or education, or just people that live by themselves that don't know how to like patch a wall or something like that. They can go on YouTube and do that. That's actually a really sick concept to be a person that uploads that shit that you know, though.
Yeah, bro.
Share the knowledge, right?
yeah,
Crazy. Look, man, this has been really fun. Really appreciate you coming through, man. This is really cool. Hear about your process and stuff.
I appreciate you having me on here, bro.
You're welcome anytime, man. So we're looking forward to your future. Have you got anything coming up in the works recently? Hopefully we're going to be hearing another single from you soon or something.
Yes.
No spoilers, but
No
give us a wee
spoilers.
something.
Look out for the boss. We will be dropping a track, summer track. It's gonna be fire. I'll say next month.
There you go. Heard it here first. In the
Yes,
916. Brilliant. Oh, awesome. Thanks again, man. If there's anything you want to tell the people, shout out anyone.
And I don't know, just shout out everyone who's been supporting me, the team. Shout out, just shout out the whole scene, man. Stay blessed.
Keep it
Spread love. Keep it real.
Sick, man. Awesome. Thanks very much. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Sick, man. That was awesome.
Thank you for having me, bro. That was fun.
That was really good.